This is the planet Venus. If someone were to mistakenly end up there, their body would be crushed like a plastic bottle within 5 seconds. Blood vessels would burst, and bodily organs would cease to function. Within just 20 minutes, your body would be scorched and roasted. But why? What mystery lies hidden on this planet? In 1961, Russia planned a mission to uncover the secrets of this planet. They spent vast sums of money to build a probe and sent it to Venus. However, upon entering Venus's atmosphere, the probe encountered a hellish scene that robbed Russian scientists of their sleep. Today, we will explore the thrilling sights Russian scientists witnessed on Venus, sights so harrowing that even NASA scientists shudder at the mere thought of going there. We will also learn about the sounds they recorded there, sounds so unsettling that Russia never even considered a return mission. Around 1960, the Cold War between the Soviet Union, modern-day Russia, and the United States was at its peak. Beyond merely showcasing military might, the two nations were locked in a fierce battle for supremacy in space exploration. In this race, the U.S. focused entirely on landing humans on the moon, while Russia aimed to set foot on Venus before the Americans could. By 1961, the Soviet Union had already surged ahead of the U.S. in the space race. They had launched the first satellite, Sputnik, sent the first human, Yuri Gagarin, into space, and even dispatched the Luna 2 probe to the moon. Venus is the second planet from the Sun and Earth's nearest neighbor. It lies 38 million kilometers from Earth, whereas Mars is 54 million kilometers away, meaning reaching Venus was a far easier task. At the time, scientists believed Earth and Venus were remarkably similar, sharing nearly identical sizes and diameters. Consequently, they dubbed Venus Earth's twin. Yet, they faced a significant problem. The surface of Mars can be clearly observed from Earth using high-powered telescopes, allowing us to understand what is happening there. In contrast, nothing can be seen when looking at Venus from Earth because the planet is shrouded in dense clouds. Consequently, the scientific community was intensely curious about what kind of world might be hidden beneath that thick cloud cover. Just as there is great public interest in Mars today, Venus was a major topic of discussion back then. Russia reasoned that while the moon could be viewed through a telescope, revealing the unknown landscape of Venus would give them an unbeatable edge in the space race. If they could discover rivers, forests, or signs of life similar to Earth's, the world would value this achievement even more highly than America's mission to land humans on the moon. With this in mind, Russia planned a mission to Venus. The probe developed for this mission was named Venera. At the time, Russia kept its space race experiments secret, announcing them only upon success. They also followed a policy of building 2 probes for each mission. If one failed, the second offered a chance of success. On February 12, 1961, they launched their first probe toward Venus, expecting everything to function correctly. The mission's objective was to collect data while orbiting the planet. The good news was that both probes successfully orbited Venus at a distance of 100,000 kilometers. The bad news was that both suffered system failures, preventing them from transmitting any data back to Earth. Nevertheless, Russia did not give up. They built 2 more probes, Venera 3 and Venera 4, around 1966. During this period, they constructed much larger and more powerful probes, weighing approximately 1 ton, and equipped them with a wide array of scientific instruments. These included instruments such as a barometer or pressure sensor, a gas analyzer, a thermometer, and a detachable capsule designed to land on Venus. The plan for this mission was to lower the probe gradually through the Venusian atmosphere using a parachute while measuring atmospheric composition, temperature, and pressure. Everything worked perfectly at first, but then problems arose. Communication was suddenly lost. It was suspected that the parachute might have torn, causing the probe to crash onto Venus like a cannonball. However, they were not the type to give up. In 1967, Venera 4 was launched, and this time the mission was on the verge of success. The probe reached Venus successfully and released the landing capsule to enter the atmosphere. The capsule then deployed its parachute, and its antenna began transmitting data back to Earth. Initially, the atmospheric pressure appeared to be quite similar to that of Earth. It is 14 pounds per square inch. This represents the pressure exerted on our bodies by the surrounding atmosphere. Because this pressure is relatively low, we do not easily perceive it. However, as one descends toward the surface of Venus, the atmospheric pressure rises and the temperature climbs alongside it. At a certain point, the temperature exceeds 200 degrees Celsius, surpassing the boiling point of water, and the atmospheric pressure reaches 319 pounds per square inch. This is equivalent to the pressure experienced at a depth of 200 meters in the ocean. Then, the landing capsule suddenly collapses. Through this partial success of Venera 4, the Soviets finally realized just how hostile the environment on Venus was. They also discovered that the atmosphere was incredibly dense. Subsequently, the Soviet Union built the Venera 5 and Venera 6 probes. While these included some additional equipment, their basic design remained similar to their predecessors. Both probes were launched toward Venus in 1967, but the outcome was the same. They stopped transmitting data while still 26 kilometers above the surface, and the mission failed once again. Had it been any other nation, they might have given up after so many failures. For Russia, however, it was a matter of national prestige, especially since the United States had already sent humans to the moon and was being hailed by the world. They resolved that to win the space race, they simply had to land on Venus. Yet, they learned from every setback and planned upgrades accordingly. Russian scientists realized a crucial fact. Once the probe entered the Venusian atmosphere, time was extremely limited, and the temperature rose sharply during the descent. Consequently, their parachutes were burning up, and the landing capsules were crashing onto the surface, destroying the instruments. Furthermore, the pressure increased steadily as the probe descended. Therefore, they needed to design a probe capable of a rapid descent. To achieve this, they attached the parachutes using cords made of a material designed to melt at 200 degrees Celsius. As soon as the probe approached the surface of Venus, the parachute would deploy, allowing it to descend rapidly. Furthermore, the probe's walls were reinforced, much like those of a submarine, to withstand the crushing atmospheric pressure of Venus. It was designed to endure pressures of approximately 2,610 pounds per square inch. Launched in December 1970, the probe initially performed exactly according to plan upon entering the Venusian atmosphere, descending at high speed. Upon reaching a temperature of 200 degrees, the retaining ring burned through and the parachute deployed. It descended much deeper than previous missions, coming within just 3 kilometers of the surface. However, the parachute suddenly tore, causing the probe to plummet toward the ground at a speed of 60 kilometers per hour before crashing onto the surface. Soviet scientists were devastated, believing they had failed despite coming so close to success. Yet, weeks later, they unexpectedly received a signal from the probe. It turned out that the probe had flipped over upon impact and miraculously survived, though its antenna was damaged. Nevertheless, it managed to transmit a signal back to Earth. Scientists were astounded by the data received. The planet was enveloped in a toxic layer of sulfuric acid clouds, roughly 20 kilometers thick, extending from 48 to 60 kilometers above the surface. Surrounding this toxic layer was another fog-like cloud layer stretching from 23 to 90 kilometers up. Essentially, a vast expanse of cotton-like clouds, comparable in scale to the distance from Earth's surface to space, encased the planet. They also discovered temperatures reaching 500 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead, and, even more daunting, an atmospheric pressure 92 times greater than Earth's, equivalent to the pressure found 3,000 feet underwater. Landing there would feel as though an African elephant were sitting on your chest. Venera 7 continued transmitting data for approximately 29 minutes before ceasing operations. Scientists were greatly encouraged by the success of Venera 7. Soviet scientists subsequently became keen on further exploring Venus. They realized that to survive there for an extended period, they needed to construct a robust probe capable of withstanding the intense heat and pressure. The probe developed by Russian scientists for the Venera 8 mission was far more advanced than its predecessors. It featured a thicker steel outer shell designed to withstand the pressure, while titanium was used internally to shield the instruments from the heat. Additionally, it was equipped with a gamma spectrometer to analyze the local soil. They also installed a light sensor. For this mission, scientists deliberately sent the probe to Venus during the day rather than at night to determine the amount of daylight present on the planet. With the help of the light sensor, they discovered that despite the dense cloud cover, enough light reached the surface to make objects visible. Venera 8 remained operational on the surface of Venus for about an hour. Technology back then was not as advanced as it is today. Therefore, landing and transmitting data for an hour under such extreme heat and pressure was nothing short of a miracle. By this time, the Soviets had mastered the technique of reaching Venus, yet the world still did not know what the planet actually looked like. To capture images of Venus, Russian scientists designed another probe, Venera 9. The design of Venera 9's landing capsule was completely overhauled. Instead of a parachute, an umbrella-like air brake was used to slow its descent through the dense atmosphere. It weighed approximately 5,000 kilograms, equivalent to an African elephant. 2 cameras were mounted on opposite sides of the lander to capture a 360-degree view. However, a problem arose during landing. The camera covers failed to open properly and fell off instead. Only one camera lens cap actually opened. On October 22, 1975, Venera 9 transmitted the first black and white image of Venus using just that single lens. It was a historic photograph. For the first time, people saw that the surface of Venus was strewn with small rocks. Unlike Earth, there was no vegetation or water, only rock upon rock. Cameras were further improved in subsequent missions, most of which were successful. Russia's Venera 13 and 14 missions were among the most successful. These probes carried more than just cameras. They were equipped with drilling machines. After landing, when Venera 14 activated its microphone, a strange sound was heard. It was the sound of storms and lightning on Venus. In 1982, Venera 13 transmitted the first ever color images of Venus back to Earth. These color images reveal that the sky there is orange and the ground is brown. Although the US and Russia labeled this Venus mission a failed experiment, it is thanks to Russia that we now know just how incredibly hot Venus is. The atmospheric pressure there is 92 times higher than Earth's. Clouds of sulfuric acid drift through the sky, and acid rain falls, while fierce, typhoon-like storms rage constantly. Furthermore, there is no sandy soil, only fragments of rock. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. See you in the next episode. Thank you.